Actually, I was talking to Terry while we were gone. We were on vacation, and after we got back, I talked to Terry, and I guess you guys, I heard a lot of people said they really enjoyed the message by Terry. And he said, one thing that he said when we were talking, he said, oh, thank you. He says, you know what? He says, you have a really great group of people there. And he's a pastor. He knows people, so he would, he wasn't just being nice. I was like, you know what? That's true. I was like, thank you. I'm glad. Did everybody, make you feel welcome and loved? He's like, hey, absolutely did. He was really impressed with that. So
Amen.
I just kind of want to let you go. You guys are pretty nice. So pretty good. Thank you. You say you're right,
I know.
You're like every week I had to go to the wedding.
That was skipping. Well, I just want to share a little bit this morning. I'm going to be starting a new series, and I'm going to be talking about vision. And as I was praying about it and thinking about it, we were just on vacation, and as I was thinking about it, I was like, man, as we get our vacation, think of all the planning that goes into a vacation, right? You have to pick a place, you have to find where you're going to stay, what place you're going to go to, how you're going to get there, what you're going to do when you get there. Even if you wing it, you still have to make a lot of different decisions. I spent so much time looking over, we got a cabin in Tennessee in the mountains, and I'm looking at all the different cabins and comparing all the prices, and finally we found the one that just had the right layout for us with everybody because we got 6 people. And so there's a lot of planning, and even each day you gotta decide, okay, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna just relax today and hang out? And that's cool, or we're gonna go out and we would say, kids would be like, what's the plan for today? They never ask me that at home. It's just schoolwork and chores, but never curious at home. But for a vacation, they're like, what's the plan for today? And we would come up with some things, even if it was just hanging out. And one thing that was interesting too is that all of these plans that we made had to fit into some kind of parameters or core values. One, of course, how much, that was important. Well, another was like, is this something everybody's going to enjoy? Is this something that we can do together as a family? And so, one of the things my thing on vacation is no social media, because I want everyone to be present. So that's why you haven't seen any of our pictures yet. We post them after we get back, and it's always funny because everybody that doesn't know is like, oh, I hope you're enjoying yourself. Well, yeah, that's last week. But we have these kind of core values that kind of decide our vacations. So we'll do different things, like we did the escape room, and that was pretty fun. We did one of those. How do you know what an escape room is? But some of you are like, well, I did escape from somewhere to get here. But I don't know if that's what you're talking about. No, I'm just kidding. But, we did one of those, and of course, in the pure Eldridge fashion, we broke the first escape room somehow. Broke my shit. And I don't know. We figured out the clues in the wrong order or something, and the guy had to come in. It was their fault, though. He said they put something in the wrong places. So
we figured it out.
yeah, so we kind of figured. He's like, how do you know this? He's like, you're not supposed to know this without this door is still unlocked, and this is. He was like very confused, and we're like, all right, aren't we supposed to be the confused ones? So it was really good because then we got an extra free escape room, so we got to do 2 for the price of 1. And but anyway, there's all these different plans and thinking that goes into going on a vacation. And if you think about it, just in our regular life, sometimes we don't make really that much thought or give that much thought into planning for our life or our days or our weeks or even our months. And the word says in Habakkuk 2:2 says, and the Lord answered me and says, write the vision and make it plain on tablets so he may run who reads it. I know you've heard that verse before. It was a prophecy for Habakkuk that he was given, and he was supposed to relate it to the people. And he said, listen, put this in a way so we can understand it. Put this in a way so somebody can take it and they can run through it. Run with it. And many years ago, I taught on the core values of Life Church, and I'm going to probably reference them as we kind of go through this series. I don't want to just teach the core values, but we do have to kind of understand what our values are as a church and as believers, because that's going to shape everything that we do. Amen? Amen. Kind of like a vacation. One of my core values on vacation is that we do stuff together. So when stuff pulls us apart on vacation, I'm like, let's just do that another time. We don't have to sit and watch TV because nobody's really interacting, Even like it was a pretty cool place. They had a pool table, had video games, like a little couple video game arcade systems and stuff like that. So I was like, man, if you're gonna play a game, just play it with somebody, you know. And so because of our core values, helped us shape our vision. Amen.
Amen.
And so I'm not going to go directly into the core values, but they do shape where we're going, and I will be interjecting them from time to time. Proverbs 29:18 says this: where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, but blessed is he who keeps the law. And so our core values always got to be based in the Word of God. It's not just, you know, I mean, we've come up with different things and, you know, whatever outreach, like say we're doing a movie night. Okay, where's that in the Bible? Well, it cuts down to our core values of reaching out to people and showing the love of Jesus. And so we go to our core values, and those have to be grounded in the Word, and then that will shape our vision. And now, how it expresses itself is going to be different from person to person and church to church. And as we do this, you know, we're not going to be just talking about church's vision, but our own vision, the vision God has given us, and it's going to be different from place to place. Every church, you know, not every church is not supposed to be exactly the same, right? They worship in different ways, they sing different songs, they have different styles, and that's all okay, so long as it's all grounded in the Word. I went to one church, and during worship, they have a guy up on the platform, and his worship expression is painting a painting. So all during the worship, he's like, smashing and spanking and doing this, making his paint. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I would never be able to worship here. It's so distracting, right? And for that church is great. And it's not wrong. It's just, for me, I'd be like, whoa, what did you just do? Whoa, what? You know, or like the flag people, you know, I mean, I was in a church with the flags, and I almost got nailed a couple of times. And, you know, it kind of takes me out of the moment when I get hit in the head with a flag. You know, it's all right. You know, it's good. It's okay. But, you know, different expressions in different churches are okay so long as they're rooted in a core value that's in the Word of God. Amen? Amen. And like I said, it's not just something we need to know as a church, our vision, but it's something as individuals. What is the vision that God has given me for my life? What is my purpose? What is it that He has me here for? And I read a definition in the dictionary. It says vision is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. I like that. I would add with God's direction and purpose as well. And so what is vision is like kind of like coming up with a plan. It might change along the way. It might be amended and tweaked and things like that. But you have this goal out there and you see this purpose out there and you're like, all right, this is how we're going here. This is how I'm going here as an individual. It's like the bridge between our now and our destiny. It's like bodybuilders. They work out and they spend hours in the gym. Right, like John Bertolino over there. And why is everybody laughing? No, but like we work out and like they work out. Yeah, you can laugh at that one. My New Year's resolution last year, you know what it was? It was to cancel my gym membership. And it still took me 6 months to get it done. So, but it's why people devote themselves to certain things like that, or to eating in a certain way. My kids, they like to do, David and Elisha like to do cosplaying. How many know what cosplaying is? A few of you? They have these conventions, and it's pretty much anything sci-fi or fantasy or pretty much anything. And everybody goes and they dress up like their favorite characters or Star Wars or just something like that. And it's pretty cool. They're actually, it's kind of a great group of people. They're all encouraging. They see each other's costumes and like, yeah, and it's kind of a camaraderie thing. And so they got into that a few years ago, and they make these costumes. And making these costumes is like a lot of work. And because they love it, I love it too. and so like you get this thing, what's that foam called? EVA foam, and you have to mold it and cut it, and then you have to hot glue it. I'm telling you, man, I've been gluing the pieces together, and I've been burned with hot glue so many times. All of us, it's like, how many have ever used hot glue? Okay, just like molten lava, just falling on you on your fingers. It's always on your fingers, and you're like, and it drops on the end, you're like, and you're trying to hold the thing together still, and you're like, oh, and you're trying to decide you want to. It's painful. And so if you're just making a costume and cutting foam and using hot glue by itself with no purpose, it is not fun at all. But what makes it fun is knowing, hey, this is going to look awesome when it's done. And they made, I think my favorite one was the Iron Man one. They did this, so this, for those of you that know Marvel and stuff, you know, for everyone else, sorry. Try to help you. But anyway, they had the Civil War. They said the Marvel movie, Avengers, Civil War. And so they did a lot of people do these mix-ups, these kind of play on words and things like that for their costumes. So we did Iron Man and Captain America Civil War era. So we made a steampunk Iron Man and Civil War soldier Captain America, and it was super cool, and he had all these bolts and gauges on Iron Man and stuff like that. And so as we're making it, it was hard work and it was painful, but it was kind of exciting at the same time because we were looking to that finish line. We had a vision for what it was going to look like in the end. And then when we make it, when we look at it, now he's still got the costume on display in his room, we don't be like, oh wow, that hurt so much. We go, oh wow, that looks so awesome. Isn't that great? Look at this, and see how we did this, and this is how we made that. And it's fun and it's exciting. Why? Because we had that vision to do it. And that vision was worth the price. That's what makes it exciting. Hebrews 12:2 says this, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Man, that just kind of says it all. You know, Jesus is ultimately, he is our vision. And what he says and everything that kind of branches out of that. He is the foundation, the cornerstone. He is the, you know, we build everything, our lives upon him. He is the chief cornerstone. And so everything has to always come out of that. And that's what gives us that ability. It says, lay aside every weight and sin and snare and stuff like that. When we're looking to Jesus, and we'll get into more specific stuff, into how that's specific for us, our lives, and our church. But the focus has to always be him first. Amen? Amen. He has to be the core. Otherwise, that's how we get off track and we come up with something that's crazy, that has no purpose and has no effect in this world, and just is just something to do something. He's got to be that core part. And when we do that, that's what gives us the ability to survive being burned by the hot glue gun of life. And you know what? And this is what Jesus did. Because it says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. So he even modeled it for us. So Jesus himself, he was not looking to the cross. He was looking beyond the cross to the joy set before him. You know what that joy was? It's Carol. It's Inez. It's Ben. It's Danny. It's Kelly. It's all of you. It's all of us. That he was like, man. Well, he didn't say probably man, but he's like, Jesus is like, those people coming to know me. That's the joy. The redemption of mankind. And so he looked at that, and that's what gave him the strength to endure. It was the vision, the sight, seeing the goal. And that's what keeps us going. Like the story of the 3 bricklayers, you may have heard. There was a guy, he goes up to this guy, and he's laying, he's doing some bricks, and he says, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm laying brick. Obviously, and he's like, oh, okay. And then he goes up to the second guy, he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm building a wall. And then he goes up to the third guy, and he says, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm building a cathedral for God. A place where he's going to be worshipped, and believers will come in, and non-believers will come in and find the Lord. It's going to be a great testament to the Lord. Who do you think probably did the best work? Right? Who do you think had the most passion for their job? Who do you think probably enjoyed it the most? You can say something. The third guy, right? Okay, yeah, you know. The third guy, he was the one who was probably like singing while he worked. He was the one who was probably excited to be there because he had the vision that he wasn't just building a wall or laying brick. He was making a cathedral for the Lord. And it sustained him. And we see it all through the Word. And you see with Noah for 100 years built the ark because he had vision. Even the Tower of Babel. They were building the Tower of Babel, and God, it was not God's will, but he's like, they're so unified and they're so together, and they have a vision for this thing. I'm going to have to confuse their languages and send them out on their way to stop them. Nehemiah, he had the vision to build the temple and the wall around Jerusalem. And so he went out and saw it, he saw the problem, and he said, you know what, we're going to fix this. We're going to, and he did. They restored the temple. And, what was it? Hold on one second. Sometimes you read, like, what did I write? Oh, and, Paul. Paul was going to Rome. And Paul, he was going to Rome in chains as a prisoner. But he had the vision because God gave him a vision to preach there. And so he's like, yeah, that's all right. I'm cool with that. Right? Because he could see ahead. I want to look at David for a minute. David was a man of vision. At the end of his life, he says to Nathan the prophet, he says, I have a palace. I've conquered all my enemies. Everything is done. I look at the Ark of the Covenant, and it's in a tent. And I'm living in a palace. He says, I want to build the Lord a temple. God did not tell David to build a temple. He didn't tell him. And so Nathan's like, sure, go ahead, do what's in your heart. And Nathan walks out, and then the Lord speaks to Nathan. Nathan comes back, and he says, no, you're not going to do it, actually. And he gives him his reasons. He says, but you know what? Your son is going to do it. And one thing that I like about that is that David was such a man of vision that, he was, going past what God was asking him to do. And God just had to dial him back a little bit. That's usually not my problem. Right? Is anybody here? Is that your problem? I mean, sometimes, maybe once in a while, I don't know. But he was like, God, I want to build you a house. And God's like, well, your son will. But then what I really like about it, and you can read it, is they have all these verses that talk about David didn't get to build it. But you know what he did? They have all these verses how he went to Lebanon and he got the cedars and he cut them and he floated them down the river for the beams for the temple. And he had them hewn stones and make all kinds of big stones and, ginormous bust-sized stones for the temple. And he had them gather gold and silver and all kinds of precious metals for the temple. It was like by the time Solomon came around, who gets all the credit, he basically had a do-it-yourself build a temple kit already made by his dad, because his dad had such vision for it. He could see it. He did everything that could be done as far as he could possibly take it. Man, we be like that. Man, we take it as far as we possibly can, as far as God will allow us. He got it together. That's vision. And he just didn't finish with vision. That's one of the reasons why David had such a heart after the Lord. He started with vision. Remember Goliath? And so David, this little ruddy kid, comes facing this enormous giant. They say he was between 9 and 12 feet tall. And David's not wearing armor. Goliath got a breastplate that you couldn't even lift. He's got a spear, a sword, and a javelin. He's got all this stuff. And they show up face to face in the battle. And he's looking at David. He's like, what? Really? This is so insulting. And he starts to insult David. And he's like, this is not even. You're sending me a child? And I love David's response. Watch this. 1 Samuel 17:45. Then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the army of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. It's like, dang. David was not maybe like me. I'd be like, okay. Dang, he's huge. He didn't look as big from back there when I signed up on the church sheet, It looked a lot easier. You guys, what are you doing back there so far, right? He's got nobody with him. He's like, these guys are not going to back me up. And he wasn't like, oh man, he's like out there, he thinks he's like the biggest guy around. He's like, no, you know what? He's like, you're going down. And because he saw the problem was Goliath, but he trusted in the Lord. He had his faith in the Lord. He knew that God was the solution, but he was God's vessel for that solution. I want to tell you something right now. Everybody here, you are God's vessel to solve a problem in this world. You're a Jesus to somebody. Not in some weird, way. But you know what? You're a Jesus. You're the light of Jesus to somebody. And God will use you. When we connect to God's vision and God's plan, God will use you to change somebody's eternity. Think about that. To change somebody's world. That's pretty great. See, and David, the reason why he got that way, he trusted in the Lord. He'd seen God do things before. But you know what? He caught the vision. Let me show you. 1 Samuel 17, verse 24. I love this part because this is where he starts to catch it. I'm going to read not all of it, but most of it. So keep in mind, David shows up at the battlefield. He wasn't there to fight Goliath, right? He was there to bring supplies for his brothers. And so he did his job, did what he was supposed to do. He dropped the supplies off. He gave them to the guys, and he walked around. And then it's when he saw Goliath defying the armies of the Lord. He saw everybody scared. He's like, what is up with this? And this is when he starts to catch the vision. Verse 24, all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come to defy Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel from taxes. And David said to the man who stood by, he's like, what? That's what he said. That's the NIV version. He said, what? He said, what shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? They just told him. But he's asking again. And they said, for who is uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God. And so the people answered him in the same way, so it shall be done to the man who kills him. And so he actually asked a few times, so much his brothers were like, will you shut up? But who do you think you are? You are nobody. You can't do this. Oh, let me tell you something. When you start to step out and follow God and to obey his vision for your life, I promise you someone's going to step in there and say, no, you can't. Here's a little side note, little free thing for you. Have people in your life that can dream with you. If you got somebody in your life that is always squashing the dream that God puts in your heart, then give them a little more space. Because God has got some great plans, and we need to have people around us that can dream with us. Listen, we're not going to get it all, we're going to kind of maybe make some mistakes along the way. That's okay. But be with somebody that, like, you say, I think I'm supposed to go and do this. And then they're like, okay, great. Want me to help? Want me to go with you? Want me to, what? Somebody that's like that can believe us instead of just tell us all the ways it won't work. Listen, I'm creative enough. I can tell you all the ways something won't work. It might rain when we do the outreach. All right, we'll come inside. Right? We might have a hurricane come or something. All right, probably not in the winter. Lions might come out and get us, right? Okay, whatever, right? Okay. But people might get saved. People might that one person that just might have been at the very end of the rope may be like, you know what? This turned the corner. So David, he started to catch the vision. And the first thing he saw was the problem. He saw Goliath is defying the armies of God. Goliath is just, he's the problem. He needs to go away. He needs to be defeated. This is not okay. And he also saw the reward. He saw the reward that God needed to be glorified, and it was disrespecting the Lord. But he also saw that he would actually have some personal reward for that. That's why he kept asking me, what's going to happen? Going to marry the king's daughter? This? No taxes? That's pretty cool. Because he didn't see it as this impossible thing. And he caught the vision. And he trusted God. And he ran with it. I think the reason why David was not intimidated when he was standing there facing Goliath is because he probably really wasn't looking at Goliath. He was looking through Goliath at the victory. Ever have somebody look through you? They go, oh. And he was looking right through him, and he's like, oh man, I see my God who's got the victory. I see that God has already given me the victory. I see it's already done. It's just a matter of knocking you down and finishing this thing. This is it. You know, sometimes I think we focus so much on the Goliath in front of us, we have no vision beyond it. And sometimes I understand we're in some tough battles. I understand life is hard sometimes. I understand there's difficulties. We all have them. We all have challenges, right? Is anybody with no challenges? Raise your hand. Okay, right? No. It's always better to ask those questions, because if I say the other one, there's like 3 people that raise their hands, right? You know, how many have challenges? All right, well, there's about 20 of you that are undecided. You know, so. But, you know, I understand that, but let me just tell you something. God has got a purpose, and God has got a victory.
Yes, amen. Come on.
Yes.
Amen.
That's it. He's got a purpose and a victory to everything. Every challenge. See, we can waste it and just suffer and have pain, because everybody has suffering and pain. Or we can give it to God and follow his vision and watch him turn that thing into something magnificent. He is a redeemer. That's what he does best. In redeeming situations and problems and tragedies, he redeems them and he turns it into purpose. When we have his vision. When we don't, we can't see it. All we can see is the monster in front of us. Look to Jesus and let him expound and clarify that vision. It gets exciting. Because then it's like, oh wow, this happened, but it can be used for his glory. I remember even when my mom had died of cancer, I was 17 years old. And that's pretty terrible. But I remember a few years later when I was, I don't know, 20, something like that, I took a missions trip, my first missions trip to Russia. And I remember talking to a man in Russia. You know what? A 20-year-old and a 45-year-old Russian man who grew up in communist Russia. It was just after the wall, after things opened up. Pretty much don't have much in common, right? You know? But he told me about his mom who was dying of cancer. And I had just gone through it. And you know what? God redeemed that situation and took something that was horrible so that I could bring healing to a man that lives thousands of miles away from me, and a man that would come to Jesus.
Amen.
Don't let your pain be wasted. Let God redeem it. Catch his vision. Catch his plan. You know, we can talk about the things of God forever, but if we don't really catch the vision, nothing's going to happen. You know? I remember one time I was doing this men's retreat, and you know, I preached some message, and the guy came up to me afterwards with a friend of mine who was the pastor at his church, and he's like, I've been telling that, I've been saying that same thing for weeks, da 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 da, and I'm like, okay, are you doing it? He's like, what? I said, are you doing it? You've been saying it. I said, is that what you're doing? Tell me how you're doing it. He got real quiet. I wasn't trying to be mean. It was just sometimes the Holy Spirit can kind of tell you to say the right thing at the right time. And then he was like, and he didn't really say much. And then he came back to me like the next day. He's like, dude, he's like, I'm not doing it. I've been all talk. Holy Spirit convicted me. You know, I know it's like, we can hear things and know things. It's like, you know, I sell on eBay for my job, and I'm a picker, like American Pickers, so I like to do that. And so sometimes people ask me to help them do the same thing. And I'll even give them stuff to sell. I'll help them. I'll show them how to do it. And I remember I was talking with my friend Derek, who helped me get started on it. I was like, I did all this stuff to help somebody to do it, and they just haven't done it. I remember one guy, I gave him a lead on a whole bunch of stuff that was basically free, and he just wasn't, I mean, it was worth hundreds of dollars, and he just wasn't doing it. And I was like, I don't get it. And I've taught him everything he needs to know, and my friend Derek says, you can't teach ambition. I was like, that's right. And you know what? We won't have ambition until we have vision. We catch that vision. Now I see something, for me, I see something that looks like a rusty old piece of junk. I just see dollar signs. I'm like, that's worth this. And so, because I see it, you know, and for somebody else, they just see it, they don't have the vision for it. Now that's for something that's not really that important. But for God, that we get the vision that He has for us. That we see the value. That we see the value in ourselves. See, you got to see the value that David, not in an arrogant way, he saw that he had something to bring to the table. Right? His brothers thought he was arrogant, but God thought he was pretty great. You know, we look at the story, his brother's like, you're so arrogant to think. He wasn't arrogant, he did it with a slingshot. I mean, he saw, you know what, God's giving me the tools to win this victory. It's not arrogance. It's just, you know, I believe what God says. And sometimes, you know, some of these guys get out there and they're like, way to like self-help and all this stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, it's, you know, it's not all about us. But you know what? Jesus does love us. Jesus has equipped us. He has given us a plan. We don't got to be sitting here, when we're sitting here saying, oh, I can't do it. No, you're doubting the ability of Jesus in us. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Amen?
Amen.
So we got to see our own value and, of course, see the value in others. And my hope is for us as a church, as I close, is that we begin to get that stirring, to catch the vision that we have as a church and the vision that God has for us as individuals. And I'll you know, sometimes, you know, the church one is kind of a group effort, and then as individuals, you know, I may not be able to tell you, I might see some things or whatever, but as individuals, we got to hear from God and see, God, how do I fit into this? How do I fit into the body? How do I follow you? What was your vision for me? And so that I can't make people hungry. I can only talk about food and hope we get hungry. And then I can tell you how great chocolate and peanut butter is. You know, I love chocolate and peanut butter. Don't forget, Gloria. You promised me some cookies. You told me today they're still coming. But I can talk about how great it is. But it only matters when we personally get hungry for ourselves. And so my prayer is, man, I pray that you get all stirred up. I pray we all get stirred up. Be like, I want to know your plan. I want to fulfill that. I want to experience that awesome victory. I want to take that Goliath out.
Yeah.
Amen?
Amen.
Not for lunch. Take him out. Let's stand.